Hey everyone, I'm Caroline Hill. I'm editor-in-chief of Legal IT Insider, and I'm joined today by Joy Heath Rush, who, as you all know, is CEO of ILTA, and Dawn Hudgins, who's VP of Service Delivery. Hi, guys.
Hey, Caroline.
Nice to see you. Hi, girls, I should say.
Well, don't know that we're Monday, we're recording this. I guess it's okay to say that on March 4th, but Monday, March 8th is International Women's Day. And how nice to have a group of executive women having a lovely chat before International Women's Day.
Exactly. And if there's time, we'll come on to your Women Who Lead group, which is really exciting. So really exciting news this week. So we come here to talk about ILTACon 2021 in Las Vegas. I think as we're all in various degrees of lockdown and can't wait to leave the house, there's been a lot of excitement about it, including myself, but also lots of questions. And I thought it would be really helpful to just run through some of the logistics, and so some of the background to deciding you're putting on a hybrid event. So some of the background to you where you've got to now in that decision, and then some of the practical steps that people need to be taking in terms of arrangements and also how they can help out, because obviously ILTA is a member organisation and there's lots of stuff that members can be doing to make sure that this runs seamlessly. So first of all, so it's the 22nd to the 26th of August, Mandalay Bay. Tell me about the conversations up till now that have led you to decide to go ahead with a physical event.
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'm going to let Dawn in a minute talk more about the conversations with the hotel, because she's been there. She experienced the touchless check-in and all of those kinds of things. She and my team were there in February. We've taken a lot of resources. We've been in touch regularly with the governor's office of the state of Nevada, the city of Las Vegas. We have regular conversations, obviously, with not only Mandalay Bay, but our hotel partners at Marriott, where we love the people at Mandalay Bay. We have a longer relationship with Marriott, and they've been fantastic. We also have spent time with other organizations that are having events in Las Vegas this year and comparing notes about that. We've gotten all the big event organizers get good intelligence from the CDC and the WHO about where we think we'll be on vaccinations and all that. And so we've taken lots of data points into account. And then, of course, we've talked to our members. We've talked to our business partners. Do you want to be there? I mean, one of my favorite stories is literally within seconds after our announcement, one of our G100 CIOs wrote to me and said, please tell me you're not going to limit how many people I can send. And so that was a very happy note. But Dawn, you're much more in, kind of the details of what's happening with the hotels and our intelligence from that. So maybe you can share a little bit about your experience in February and how that helped lead us to our decision.
Sure. I first want to mention one thing that helped lead us to our decision, and that was our travel survey that we've done now for 4 times, making sure that we keep a pulse check on our member organization to see what their plans are, what they're doing, what they need from us to make those types of decisions. So I did want to mention that. So in February we went on site at Mandalay Bay. It was really like a bad movie when you step on site, from the perspective that we were pretty much the only people there. The hotel staff that we deal with on the convention center side actually had to come in to meet with us instead of being there normally. So a little bit different situation, but from the very moment that we stepped foot on the property at Mandalay Bay, it was pretty comforting. So they have a whole new system where you download an app to your phone, you check in on your phone, and it brings up a QR code. And so as you walk in, there's a little kiosk station, and you scan your QR code, and it'll say, pick up a couple of keys, and you pick up your keys and you stick them in there, and you load your on room number onto there, and you head off to the elevators. Very simple. And that was great. Our experience was like that pretty much the whole time we were there. They're very well, it's in their best interest as well as ours, but it's definitely in their best interest to make sure that they have cleaned things as best as possible, to create policies to where things are as clean and are cleaned as frequently as is necessary or more than is necessary. We felt really comfortable. I mean, it was truly a good experience and a great way to see how they were doing it firsthand, and what that meant for us. So yeah.
Is the anticipation Joy mentioned about vaccinations? So is the? I mean, I'm curious about. I've got so many questions actually. So, are you going to have to? Well, obviously you've been there with no one around. That's very different, as we know, to the ILTA that we know and love, which is thousands of people. How the guy that you spoke to said, "Are you going to stop me sending people?" What is going to happen in terms of numbers? How are you going to, even with the QR code? What it's like when. Are we going to? What are you expecting in terms of numbers? Are you going to restrict it at all, or how are you going to manage that side of things?
I'll speak to that. So one of the things that I think people will have to bear with us a little bit is things might change a little bit.
Yeah.
So as of today, which is March 4th, as of today, we are looking to have 1,300 people on site at Mandalay Bay. Now, earlier in February, it's been about 3 weeks now, the governor of Nevada made his plan that showed what it was going to look like through May. And in May, at the very beginning of May, all the governmental policy creations will then be passed over to the city. So Las Vegas will then take that over. So they're working on that right now. It could be that some of the percentages and the little algorithms that are created in order to figure out how many people we can have in each room will change by then. And what we'll do at that time is take a look at what those changes are and what we can handle. Because just because they say that we can fit 5,000 people in a room, if we don't feel that 5,000 people is a number that can safely fit in there, we're not going to have that. We're going to make sure that we maintain a number that we can handle for health checks and that we can handle safely for social distancing. But for right now, it's 1,300, but knowing that come May, that number could possibly adjust just a little bit.
Is it likely, do they say it's likely to go up slightly? Or is the anticipation, rather than down?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, okay. And they're obviously working out, that's I mean, I wouldn't want to be in their shoes in terms of, so they're looking at the space they've got and working out how many people can feasibly, are people going to have to wear masks? I mean, by the way, if there are questions that you can't answer yet, but I understand that you're working this out as well, but the announcement only came this week, but is the expectation that everyone will have to wear masks everywhere?
Our plan right now is that everyone will.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then
I think it's fair to say that whatever steps we take will begin with what the state of Nevada requires.
Yeah.
And then there may be some things that we do above and beyond that. So for example, at this point, we don't know if the state of Nevada will require masks. That doesn't mean we won't.
No.
But it starts with that baseline of what the state of Nevada requires. And then as Dawn said, as of May 1st, Clark County and the city of Las Vegas.
Okay. And that 1,300 number, remind me about, so how does that compare to previous in-person years, roughly?
Oh, about a third, a quarter to a third.
Yeah, I'm not a mathematician. That's not my strong suit, and I won't pretend. But in 2019, for example, on site, business partners, members, consultants, staff, volunteers, the whole bit, we were just under 4,000.
Yes, of course, I remember, because it was a record year, wasn't it? Yes, of course. Yes. Okay. So, but still, I mean, it's 1,300. So, and how are you? So you're going to have to wait. I mean, people start to register in April. That's right, isn't it? Is that so? That's for everybody. So, what's the guidance in terms of how people should approach it now? So, obviously, it's something with removable fees for you. You're managing it as best you can, working with Nevada and the guidance that you're given. Practically speaking, so what should people be doing in terms of registration and making plans? What's your guidance on that?
Joy, you want to take that?
John and I are looking at each other because we have an approach that we want to take, but we're working through it with our finance people to make sure that it's good. is people will have the option to register for the digital streaming conference or for the physical conference. And we're looking at if there's some way that we can easily manage a hold my spot.
Yeah.
Is kind of the best way to think about it, that you register saying I'm going, and I'm registering as for the digital conference, but I prefer the in-person conference or something. We're trying to come up with the mechanics of that so that people can hold their spot. Okay. So we're not sure what that's going to look like. That should be shaping up within, what do you think, Dawn? By the end of next week, we'll probably have that sorted out, but certainly by the time we launch registration. But we want to be realistic that people are working through the logistics within their own organizations as well.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Has the feedback been, I mean, presumably you had a mixture of sort of very excited feedback and then lots of questions. Is that right? So people really trying to work out what it looks like, for them.
Yeah, and I will say, I think Caroline, you and I talked about this last year when we were making these hard decisions, and think about where we were at this time last year. We weren't in lockdown yet.
Yeah.
And then decisions had to be made very quickly because we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. But we had a lot of concerned messages about the possibility of having an in-person event, and some very frightened ones, which we understand. This year, it's not that. People are chomping at the bit to be back together in person. And of course, so are we. Our job, Dawn's job, is to make sure that it happens safely. And she said to me yesterday, and I think this is a really important piece too, we're really planning 2 complete conferences in one. We're planning a digital conference and a physical conference that then have to intersect. And it's new. It's new. We're breaking new ground.
It's exciting. I want to talk about the hybrid one. I'm going to come on to that in a bit. In terms of, so Dawn, you mentioned about to reassure people that, I mean, I get the impression that people really are chomping at the bit as well, because it's been a long time coming, and actually this will be the first big conference that people have been able to go to. So I think actually it's going to be a bit like Glastonbury on the day of registration for ILTA. You'll probably find that your system crashes. But so in terms of, obviously, Dawn, you mentioned the QR codes and all of that kind of stuff. Is there anything else and you're talking to the hotel on a regular basis about this, is there anything else that they're giving you in terms of that you can pass on to people about safety, ensuring, making people feel comfortable and say, do you know what, these are the arrangements? I mean, I understand that this is all, the guidance is changing, etc. But what are the hotels saying about how they can make sure people are safe?
Well, the hotel, we're working with them and the CDC and the WHO to make sure we do all that. We've actually gone through several certification classes to make sure that we understand the best practices and things to do. They're working with us to set up a couple different sites on our floor. We have the second floor of the Southern Hemisphere Convention Center floor. We have 2 points of access where when you come either in off the elevator or up the escalator, you will then go through health checks. And some of this will actually take place while you're in your room before you come to the floor, the whole questionnaire type piece. And then when you get to the floor, we'll go through the temperature and those types of things before we even let you out onto the show floor. That will happen every single day. On Saturday and Sunday, as we're setting up, that will actually happen multiple times a day, just because there are so many different people coming in to set things up. We have people that will be stationed throughout the floor, ready to clean anything that's touched. That is their 100% job. That is the only thing they're focused on doing, is cleaning. When it comes to, say, for the exhibit hall floor, that's going to look totally different than it ever has in past. The booths will only be 10 by 10s and 10 by 20s. They will each have a 10-foot space in between them going down the aisles. So you'll have a booth and then a break and then a booth and then a break. The halls will be wider. The entryways will have more space than we've ever had before. We will not have lounges on the exhibit hall floor like we've had in the past, where you can go and sit down and have a conversation or a break. Those things will not be there either. We will have smaller ones where odd numbers of people can gather. That way we're not encouraging people to to be around one another too tightly. The cleanliness factor is the biggest thing, because they have some new sprays that they use that have to do with electrostatic and it repelling certain viruses and those types of things. And that is what they'll be using as they clean. We have some fun areas that we are planning. And the first thing that people come at me with is, well, what about the cleanliness factor and wiping it off? Well, there will be a person that's their job. You stand there all day long and someone walks by and touches something, well, you can clean it.
You're going to get questions as we go by.
That's right. So there'll be a lot of that. We will not have on-site registration. That's a big change. You have to register before you get to the show floor. We will have an area where you can pick up your materials and your badges and that type of thing. But it will not have that human interaction as much as it has in the past. It'll be very limited. We will have, this might be my favorite thing that we're doing today. We've talked about, Carolyn, there's so many things.
You're like me when I'm going, I've got so many questions, Dawn. I've got so many questions. You've got so many answers. Yeah.
So with our education sessions, this is kind of exciting for us. So we have 6 rooms where we have education. 4 of those rooms will actually have live streaming that'll be taking place for every education session. So you get to see and feel what it's like to be in that room. The other 2 rooms that we have will be recordings, so you can go back and see what everyone else saw or listen to it. But those rooms are kind of special because those rooms, each room has 2 exits that lead to 4 rooms.
Okay.
So it's almost like if you've gone to Disney World and you have exited a ride, you have to go through the gift shop.
Yeah.
And in this situation, when you exit the education sessions, you will exit into where our business partners will be.
Okay.
So it's an opportunity to connect with our members right after the education sessions. That's kind of new. We haven't done that before. Every property is set up for that. But we're going to try it this year and see how it turns out.
It's a good idea. I mean, so it sounds like, so in terms of the exhibition hall, so that's very different, isn't it? And does that mean, because it's normally so packed, what does that mean in terms of the number of businesses that are able to become sponsors or exhibitors? Does that mean that how are you going to manage, if you've had to, presumably you have to cut it by necessity. Nope. How do you manage? No, you're still going to be able to have the same amount.
I think it's interesting how things always kind of work out. The exhibit hall at Mandalay Bay is the largest exhibit hall that I know of, at least since I've been doing ILTACON, that we've had. It is ridiculous.
It is. It's the biggest floor.
And in past, we've had to curtain off areas.
Oh, okay.
This time we're using the whole thing. They will be spread out. And we are even having our food areas in the very back of the exhibit hall, so that people can walk past the booths when they go in and have a large open space to safely eat with one another.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's good. So you're not having to sort of restrict, although I guess actually this is something that just popped into my head. I suppose in terms of the registrations, because you've got a restriction on numbers by necessity, I guess you have to make sure that the balance is right in terms of buyers and sellers. You're going to have to make sure that it's an even number or whatever the ratio is. But what are you doing? How are you going to manage that bit?
That's been a lot of debate.
I bet that.
Well, I can say one of the things is that we will have, in some cases, we've had exhibitors that have brought 50 people, 60 people. That's not feasible this year for a lot of reasons. So we'll be working with our exhibitors to make sure they know how many people it takes to staff their booth, what they're going to do in their demo room, or what they're going to do in their hospitality suite. And the limits that we're imposing, or not, I shouldn't say we're imposing, the city is imposing, really has to do with the convention center portion. So there will also be activities happening in the main hotel. I'm sure some of our exhibitors will have hospitality suites and things like that in the main hotel. It's going to be different for sure. But what we don't want to do is say this exhibitor can have 50 people and this exhibitor can have one, And again, these are new problems we're solving. But the really good news, I think, is we have a fantastic partner advisory council. And there are a lot of folks on there with tons of experience, having been to these conferences, as well as some new people, newer people who are bringing in a fresh perspective. And our partner advisory council has a dedicated subcommittee on conference operations, and they work directly with Dawn. So she can say, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? Oh, well, we like this. We don't like this. Can we talk about that? Yeah. I really believe having that level of input, I call it pre-flighting. Let's take an idea and run it by the people who are affected, and let's see what they think. And I really just want to thank that partner advisory council group. They're great collaborators with us, and we're all breaking new ground here.
Is it likely? I mean, it sounds like it's still up for discussion, but is it likely that each exhibitor will be told that they can have, say, the same amount of people, or is there a conversation about the size of the supplier, and are those conversations still ongoing? Have you come up with any kind of formula as to everyone, all sort of on the buy side, all of the sellers can send 2 people, for example? Is there a decision on that yet?
I think it's fair to say that's still in discussion.
Yeah.
Because it comes down partly to the size of the booth. I mean, if you have, and of course we don't do this, let's say you had a 60 by 60 booth. Of course, no one would ever have that. It takes more people to staff that than a 10 by 10 booth. We'll have a much less variation in booth size, so that'll be more standard. And then there'll be also, of course, the digital and streaming component where we don't have those kinds of physical limitations. So last year, for example, we gave all of our exhibitors unlimited badges, if you will, to the digital conference so that they could talk with customers, go to educational sessions. And I think that will probably be the same, for us for this year.
So in terms of, so I think I'll come on to the digital element in a sec. Actually, I want to make sure we make time for that. In terms of, I think I've probably asked you. So suppliers, in terms of preparation, it's a little bit of. Are you reaching out to them? Are you having conversations with them and helping them plan? I presume is that a you conversation, your team, Dawn? And I guess they're going to have to sort of have conversations and work it out. And the same with law firms. So in terms of they're just going to have to register and as you said already, register. We'll have to see what that looks like, but they can put their options down, and you have to see what you can do with numbers. Is there going to be a sort of first come first served element to this? Yeah,
I think it's fair to say. And that's why we're very interested in this idea of, I want to attend regardless. It could be the digital, it could be the in-person, and sorting that out so that people have the opportunity to go through their internal processes. I mean, I think that's part of the conversation. I mean, we're seeing, even just talking to people, kind of stealthily, a lot more people are back in the office than we may realize.
Because they don't want to be at home with their children.
Exactly right. Exactly right. They've had enough of that. Or in the case of the incredibly snowy winter that we've had in Chicago, maybe if they're out of the house, they have to hire somebody to plow the driveway. They don't have to do it themselves.
So there's lots of and then in terms of just socials at ILTA, is that going to? I mean, that's not my favorite bit at all, obviously. But it's I mean, how that for me was one of the first things I thought about. Because ILTA is famous for these fantastic socials, but then it means that we all have a gin and tonic, whatever, and everybody sort of starts getting in each other's faces. Is that going to be a nightmare to manage? That's part of the whole ILTA experience. How are you going to manage that bit?
Yeah, so we've been looking at that. Right now we're in conversation. This is not final to take a look at having that pool deck on Sunday evening. So it's nice to have, that whole outside opportunity. We are looking at the Shark Reef on Thursday, where our numbers are a little less. Places where we can have some really cool gatherings and do some really great things, but as safe as possible. None of that is in stone yet.
Okay.
We are, and I'm open to ideas, so people can send me ideas as long as
people should send ideas. Yeah, I'm sure. And do you know, I think if you. So I'm going to come on to this, but I think you should make sure we've got time for you to tell people how they can help, because I really feel like So let's talk about the hybrid though. So you're doing, obviously last ILTA on was a digital event, and you're going to very much be, so that because obviously numbers being what they are, you almost have to provide a hybrid event, but also there's an element of, it's quite exciting, isn't it, if you can link in the two. Tell me about how you're going to be. You've already touched on a little bit in terms of people will be able to see a video as if they were there, but how are you going to take the lessons of last year and make the digital even better? How are you going to link the physical and the digital as well?
So last year, obviously, we had some great education sessions. We had some great keynote speakers, all of which were digital. That's going to happen this year too. And what that brings to the table, just to highlight it, is an opportunity to get speakers we've never been able to have before. We had that happen last year. Some speakers that we've been trying to get for years and not been able to get, but because it was digital, we were able to do it. Hoping for the same kind of luck this year. So that stays. One of the things that also allows us to do is, since we are in person and doing this digitally, anything like our anything that happens in our general session room will be live streamed. So that means any of the company updates, any type of workshop type piece, any type of help me out, Joy. Our
the expert masterclass.
Yeah, anything that happens in that main room will get broadcast out. But then you also have your education sessions that are proprietary. Those will be going on as well. Pretty excited. As they are developing, our teams are developing the education, they're developing them for the medium. So if they are taking place in a streaming type session, they are working on creating streaming sessions that are interactive. They're only on site, it takes a whole new look. And they're doing things that you can truly only do in person. Because we are so big on networking, we will still have a lot of the same networking opportunities we had last year. And we're looking at a few new ones. So because Joy is such a Big Bang Theory fan, we are looking at creating some shell bot opportunities. In other words, where you basically have an iPad at a station, and maybe Caroline, you're sitting right where you are, and you could be sitting there at your Caroline station. And, you can talk to people who walk by, or as in our networking matchmaking opportunity, we have several of these stations set up through the room. And as we rotate people through the room, you get to meet 10 or 12 new people that you've never had.
With the people that are in there in person. So you're that's fun. That's really fun. Yeah. And you could, I guess, with the social event, you could potentially maybe live streams or maybe find ways of creating that. I mean, that would make it really fun, wouldn't it? Like, and I think that's where having the
I think we can really use social media. I mean, I think you'll see more use of Instagram than we've had. That's a relatively new medium for us. And you've probably seen that even some of our content team they've started using Instagram stories for that. Yeah. But Instagram is a great opportunity for our participants to share with the people who aren't there. And so we want to use social media in a really constructive way. Yeah. One of the bigger problems we're wrestling with is I think Dawn's going to put a no hugging zone around me, because that I'm a serial hugger, as we all know.
We're going to have to put you in some kind of beekeeper suit, Joy. That's what's going to happen.
It's going to be a pull float.
Yeah, we're going to you're going to have some kind of barrier. Listen, guys, before we run out of time, so obviously you made no secret, thanks to the pandemic, that your organisation had to slim down, and I imagine that this is not, being fair, it's exciting, but it's a bit of a nightmare. So what do you need? And ILTA being a members organisation, what do you need from members? What could you do how can they help you?
Well, go ahead, Dawn, and then I'll pick up from that.
Okay, one of the things that will be imperative when you go to register for this event, whether it is from the digital perspective or the in-person perspective, there are going to be several options on there on ways you can volunteer on site. That's a great place to say, I am interested in, volunteering for X, Y, or Z. Oddly, because of the pandemic, this year we'll also have the opportunity, if you've had COVID and you can provide documentation that you have the antibodies,
Yeah.
there are special volunteer opportunities for you if that's something that you're interested or willing to do. One of the things we've noticed is people who have actually had COVID have a really strong urge to keep other people from getting it because they've gone through it.
Yeah.
And they can provide some assistance that only they can. There's going to be lots of
so it's all on the so it's clear on the website what the opportunities are
on the registration. Yes,
that's right.
So they go to ilta.com and then the conference, or where do they find the opportunities?
Those will be in the registration.
In the registration. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Joy, we've got a minute.
Yeah,
Do you want to add to that?
I would say too, we're going to be doing a little bit of a contest we'll be announcing soon about, we want to be really creative about how we engage our members and our business partners, because that ability to stumble on new products or new services is a critical part of what we do at ILTACon.
Yeah.
And so we want to come up with the great ideas about doing things nobody else has ever thought of. So our members out there, I want you to be on the lookout for it, because we're going to have a little contest for you to come back to us with some great ideas of how you want to engage with our business partners. So participate, put on your thinking caps, and send us some fantastic ideas.
Okay. And where should they who do they contact for fantastic ideas? Is that
it'll actually, I think, end up being Corey and at iltanet.org, but we'll have an official announcement in a week or so.
All right. Okay. Well, look, thank you both. It's been really great chatting, and I look forward to hearing how the plans develop. But for the time being, thank you both. It's been great.
Thank you, Caroline. It's always a pleasure.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.